Happy Day starts with a smile. This is Atlantean Gatekeeper, and here is your host, Stefan Palczewski.
Yes, we are from the same planet. We eat the same food, we breathe the same air, yet we belong to a completely different worlds. What does this mean? This means that the difference between us is the understanding what life is, the processes that are present in our life, how they operate, who we really are, what's the function of us here, what's the function of our body, where this is all going. We keep forgetting one simple thing, that even though we belong to the same class called humans, yet we belong to a different groups, to different classes. We are not one size fits all. There are people which are really very advanced if it comes to being aware who we are, and there are people which are very primitive, dealing with very basic function of life, which they are not interested in any astrophysics or technical development or exploration of space. Nature gives us the answer to that. Look at the environment where each species serve different function. In our giant, almost 9 billion people society, we are also divided into groups, which in each category, that group serves a different function. There are the laborers, there are the one who are leaders, there are the one who are the engineers and designers, there are others which are involved in the spiritual world and religious world and philosophies, and so on and so on and so on. You, either you like it or not, you belongs to one of those classes. I missed one of the most important classes on this planet, which are mothers and farmers. Those are the two groups that are always somehow not mentioned. They are somehow pushed aside as though they were not important at all. The farmer is really one of the most important profession on this planet, because when we don't have the proper nourishment for our body, our mind is also cloudy. But of all of them, the most important people that are underrated and almost ignored all the time are mothers. In many cases, mothers are forgotten. In many cases, farmers trying to grow healthy foods for us, they are being punished. I'm going to skip this part for and explain that in some other presentation, because those two subjects, they need to be addressed in details why this is happening. There is a reason for that, and we are all contributors to how this whole thing is unfolding. This isn't like there is one group of men or women that are pushing some agenda, undervaluing all those that I mentioned. We are all contributors to that. Some of you might be on defensive over what I just said, but we need to understand something really important here. I already mentioned in my previous presentations that we are in the cycle of deception, the time of deception, which is already almost 3,000 years. As you know from biology, every form goes through cycles. There is the When we are born, we are infants, then we grow, then we are adults, then we are older, and then we finally die. The same thing in nature. There are seasons. There is the spring, summer, fall, and winter. Every process on the earth follows the same pattern. It doesn't matter what it is, if it is stone or water or air or anything else. The same process goes on beyond Earth. It goes on the galactic level as well. There are seasons, there are cycles. According to most people, those are the cycles are representing timeline. However, this is very incorrect. The cycles do not represent timeline at all. They simply are folders containing specific processes that are unfolding in such a way that there is that illusion of time. All the processes are locked in those files, in those folders, Some folders contain many files, many subcycles. For example, the 12,000 years old cycle is known almost to everyone. We are being told that there was a cataclysmic event about 12,000 years ago, but in between then and now, we had at least six major cataclysmic events. Those cataclysmic events are like a partitions between each folder, each file. Each file runs its own on its own. It's governed by its own elements involved in this. So is human life. So is the life of every planet. So is the life of every galaxy. In Hinduism, those cycles are called yugas. These yugas or cycles or events, they have different timeline. They simply last in different. They are measured in different values. For example, the timeline that we use in years is only a reference point. Time does not exist. So, for example, one of the yugas, like the Kali Yuga that we are right now, has three parts, and the final parts last very short period of time. It's very violent, aggressive, but it brings all the events to the end. Whatever manifestations we see, they are coming to be nullified. Much in the same way, like in after fall comes winter. I hope I didn't lose you yet, but if you are lost, well, I'm sorry. Let's start again. Life is a process and it follows certain cycles, certain seasons. Those seasons they have sometimes fancy names. To understand to understand those seasons and cycles, we need to understand the hermetic principles. I am not expecting you to be know it all because that would be really crazy if every imagine that every person on this planet suddenly knows everything. Everyone on this planet is proficient in the hermetic principles or esoteric science or astrophysics or any science that we know all the answers. um, I would want to just kill myself if that happened. Therefore, the nature works in very strange way. As you can see, we have species that feed on each other. The bacteria producing fungi, fungi is being eaten by small animals or even other fungi, and so on and so on. There is a chain. This is like a food chain where we supposed to be on the top, and however, that's not correct. We are not on the top. There is always virus and bacteria that is on the bottom and on the top. It's closing the circle. We are hopeless against many of them, and we will never be above them. They are necessary. They are the cleaning part. They are the one who, which they are custodians. They are simply during the renovation. They do the cleanup, making room for another species to show up. So they are very useful. They are very positive. People see that differently, but not me. As I said, we are on the same planet, but yet we belong to a different worlds. When I'm speaking, I am making those presentations. I am only hoping that the person on the other end is someone who is willing to listen, that has ears open, someone who has also the eyes open and see what they want to see, not what the media is telling them to look for. As I mentioned a few seconds ago, that it would be really crazy to have everyone up to speed to be of to understand everything. Therefore, there is the division that some of us serve a specific function. You might be laborer, you might be just a cleaning lady or someone who is driving a truck. Your input, your contribution to our well-being is not diminished by what you do, because many people are considering, especially those which are working for giant corporation that they are more important than the person who is cleaning the street. That is absolutely not true. In fact, the people on the bottom doing those very demeaning jobs, or they think they do the demeaning jobs, are more important than the CEOs. They are more important than Bill Gates or Zuckerberg. Those people on the top, they are dead weights. We need to carry them out. We are the one which are contributing to their lavish lives, to excessive expending. They At this point they do not understand that yet how much damage they are doing to themselves. But this is all good because we need to have a life example where the nature is showing us what happened in very specific situation, even though we are thriving, or we are trying to get to a point where everybody is happy and satisfied and we live in peaceful world and in just world. That will never happen. We need to understand how this world works, and in order to do that we need to go through all the crappy situations to understand the principles, to understand the processes. Without that, the utopian world cannot happen. Now, does the utopian world exist somewhere? Very briefly, but yes. Since we are creatures that exist through many layers of realities, I specifically am saying layers of realities, not dimensions, because this is misinformation. Anyone who is claiming that there are any other dimensions is providing you with misinformation. Again, other dimensions do not exist, and anyone who says that is providing you with misinformation. Here it is how that works. Take a look at Earth. There is the upper atmosphere, and there is the bottom of the ocean, like the Mariana Trench. So here, how that relates to us. The bottom of the ocean that I mentioned is a different set, has a different set of rules, different principles apply. On the surface of the ocean, there are different rules, different principles apply. On the top of our atmosphere, there are different rules, different principles apply. The combination of all is one dimension, because Earth is just one dimension. It has just different layers of the same thing. Those layers are different realities, where going to the bottom of the ocean, you need to have protective gear. Your movement would be very limited. You need to take oxygen with you, because otherwise life would not sustain there. You need to bring food with you, because you would not sustain the life there. Then on the surface of the ocean, you are much better, because even though the ocean might be uh, really stormy, but still the life is much better because you can sustain that life. Going to mountains, it's even much better, although you may have problem with water. But going into the space, in the air, somewhere on the last layer of our atmosphere, the same thing. You need to bring some kind of protective gear. You need to bring breathing stuff. You need to bring your food with you, otherwise you would not. You see, you are on the same planet, but the conditions of life are different. The perception of what Earth is at each of those levels that I mentioned is completely different. Therefore, if someone is saying to you that we are shifting to the fifth dimension, there are Pleiadians waiting for us, that's a load of bullshit. Simply, they are inventing stuff because they want to have following. They want to be the priests, high priests in their own church. Even though that what I said, it's very negative and on the really not happy note. Yet this is necessary, because this is showing us how such approach is not serving us. We need to go through the process. We need to, the people which are following those people with those fifth dimension and Pleiadians, They need to go through the whole process to the end until finally they will realize and see for themselves where they actually are. They need to step back. At some point, they will have the option to be at a different level of their awareness, to be present somewhere else, overseeing this whole process. Then they will realize how almost ridiculous this is. But this is necessary, this is essential. Telling other people what to not believe or what to not follow, it's futile because that never works. It actually pushes them even farther into that what they want to believe. But I am getting too deep into this subject, which I am hoping to unpack some other time. Everything that is happening on the earth has its purpose, and it's not really a bad thing or negative thing. It's simply it's it's a good idea to understand that. And I am not going to bring to the table something that is invented by me. It's there are the explanation for those things are already around you. You just need to open your eyes and to see those elements that are explaining that. Now let's take a look at our current situation. Since my last presentation, a lot of change. There are many ugly situations unfolding in the world. There is the assassination of Charlie Kirk. There was the assassination of the Russian Zarutska. Those things are triggers for our internal I am. When we are looking at something, we immediately activate our emotional side. That emotional side transfer those pulses into our internal I am, and the internal I am is responding accordingly, bringing to our view more of such events. When we are not attached to any of those situations, to any of those events, when we are just passive observer, those events are not going to be constantly flashed in front of our eyes or similar situations in front of our eyes. This is basically the most important part of our life. We are here to be present when all those events are unfolding. So let's take this a little bit back. You are not the physical form that you call human. You reside in that physical form we call human, and you are always present in all of those manifestations or events in the whole process. So let's say that again. Our human form is a vehicle giving us the ability to be present in all processes unfolding on Earth. The only thing we do here, we are present when that happens. At the core level, we are not humans. None of us is. We are simply an essence, everlasting essence that is curious and it wants to experience life in every possible and conceivable situation. And to do that, we are inventing situations and processes that are giving us the possibility to experience that. It would be very difficult to experience any of that if we came into the form with the knowledge who we are, with the knowledge and awareness how this process is unfolding and its complete meaning. Therefore, right now, in the past 125,000 years, we no longer can just simply manifest ourselves into the physical world with full blown bodies because we used to do that. But now we are going in the process of being born as a child. And the process of that child up to the year 7 or 8 is giving us the option to forget who we are. That focus on the physical realm where we are interacting with everything, with our parents, with anything, pets and what's not, the food we eat, the pleasure we are having from playing with toys and so on. It's taking away our awareness from our core, and it's bringing the attention more into the external world. This is essential and necessary to experience the world with all there is to the fullest. Furthermore, we are having, as I already mentioned, the triggers. The triggers are essential to set our mind or the emotional part, the emotional body, the senses to react to certain situations, to then activate certain elements that we already know are going to be in our path. Our life is already ordered from above. To those who understand Neville Goddard, they probably know that already. It is a fact that we already are aware completely before we move our awareness with the physical form called human, what we are going to experience in details, because everything happens at once. This is simultaneous process. We don't have any gap between the day we are entering the physical form and the day we are exiting the form. In fact, we need to start with the death first, otherwise we could not be here at all. The advent of this internet, it seems like we are communicating with everyone all across the globe, and this is a good thing. But it also is, the misuse of that is very dangerous and can hurt a lot. Yet the hurting is a good thing, because you don't know if the plate on a stove is hot until you touch it. When you burn yourself, then you are more cautious. Then the next time you approach that with a different set of mind. So bad things are good because they are teaching us something. The question always remains, can we drastically alter our lives here using the principles that are presented by Dao De Ching or Neville Goddard or many other spiritual teachers and leaders? The answer is no. We only can adjust our responses to all those events that are in our path. Yes, to some degree, we have, with the process, we have the ability to experience things differently, and different elements are already in the package. But can we drastically alter our life from being poor to being extremely rich? No. We already know the process, we already understand the process. If you are in the process of getting out of poverty and you become rich, that was the concept. This is the part that you already decided to go through. This is not like you did this here out of blue because you found the power of imagination or the power of assumption, and voila, now you are a millionaire. That doesn't work that way. Remember that statement that I am going to give you right now. You will never do something that you don't know what it is. Now, let me repeat that again. You will never do something that you do not know what it is. In other words, to be drawn to be rich, you need to understand what the rich means. Rich does not mean wealthy. Those are two different things. And people which are seeking for money, they want to be rich. They are looking for big businesses and cars and houses and what's not. Those are people that they want to be rich. Now, wealthy people not necessarily are very rich. Wealthy people are happy with what they have, and they usually get out of this world happy and with blessed. They have no regrets, no attachments, nothing. Rich people, on the other hand, sometimes they have a very unhealthy attachment to what they had before, because now they have to give up all of it. They cannot take with them anything. I am not trying to judge those rich people, because they are here to, they are as a testimony to what happens if you are focused on riches, how your life goes, And what's the end? Every single life on this planet serves as testimony to other people what the consequences of certain sets of mind can produce. And people usually they usually try to copy what the other person did it, how they become rich. They should rather, as already someone mentioned, you don't follow the people what they did, they follow what they thought, what their set of mind was, because that's the most important part of being here. If you don't, there is nothing that you are losing. You are simply learning. You are not learning from being good, you are learning from being bad. Remember that. I will repeat that again. People which are good, they learn absolutely nothing. But the people who do bad, they learn a lot because they do understand the consequences of their actions. Perhaps that would be time now to look at this world in a bit different light. Stop judging all those people, like, for example, Trump. There is so much negativity towards this guy. It's a joke. He's in the center of every joke on this planet. Now, if you understand the universal principles or any of those hermetic principles, those people who do that, they are making him very powerful. And to my surprise, to what I've seen already, it is very highly possible that doing so, the people are already giving him power to become president for the third time. Really, really ironic and really at the same very funny. Do I wish that he is again? I don't really care. I am, as I said, we are from the same planet, but I don't live in the same world as you do. At least most of you, because there are plenty of you listening to this, which are very intelligent people, and they listen. They have ears open. They don't listen to my words. They listen to the meaning behind it. And once some very smart guy said that when a teacher is teaching and pointing to the moon, usually people are looking at his hand and his fingers, not on the moon. So please, if you want to know something, stop looking at my hand or my fingers. Take note of what is being said, the meaning behind it. Following the same path of thinking, I will give you something that may contradict teachings of many people. That is the idea that we as a species we can develop one form of philosophy or one form of lifestyle, like for example Sumerians or Mayans or Egyptians or Aztecs, where we are much more peaceful, understanding, more cooperative, less war. No, that never happened. The understanding of those so-called ancient cultures, we need to look not at what is being said, but rather we need to analyze all the artifacts that they left behind. And the artifact speaks much louder than any scholar, because most scholars they are providing misinformation anyway. They are relying on finding of others, and the others already made the mistakes, and they are repeating the same mistakes, adding their own. And by the time the information arrives to us, it's nothing but pure crap. Our human awareness, we as a humans, or someone will say our soul, is trapped in a physical form, which is nothing more than expanded awareness, is going through all the processes and it's present, it's observing, it's absorbing with all the senses what is happening around it. We are never going to develop, as I already mentioned, one system where everybody is going to be happy. We can, however, develop a system where many smaller systems are cooperating with each other. That's what Sumerians did. Sumerians were divided into groups, which the top one was very sophisticated, but they never were presenting themselves as the superior group to many others. They were simply always trying to be of service to those below. And then the next group next to them below that did the same thing. They were trying to be of service to those below. and so on and so on. And this was constantly feeding loop. The people on the bottom, the primitive people, the farmers, the laborers, they were always trying to be of service. They were giving the best what they could to those which are seemingly above them. They to those to that were leading them, to those that were teaching them, and they trusted them. The trust was reciprocated. I hope I said that correctly. Upwards and downwards by each of those groups. When there are classes where nothing works within the class, they sometimes can function in much larger system as long as they trust the people above and below them. That was the case in, for example, Mayans. They had conflicts, but they were always unified if it comes to their well-being. Same thing was with Aztecs. The same thing was with Egyptians. The early Egyptians were functioning even much, much better. The drastic difference between the top group in the Egyptian pharaohs system was much bigger than it is right now. The gap between the top and the bottom was humongous. Those people on the bottom, they had absolutely no idea what's going on, but they trusted the people above them that they would look after them, and that's exactly what they were receiving. And the people on the top, then way, way, way up, they knew that they can count on those on the bottom without exploiting them. This is something that is very foreign to our current system, to the way we see this world. But this is fact, which was, I have many confirmation on that from different sources, but I'm not going to bring that to your attention right now. This is something that needs to be explored on your own. In other words, whatever I am saying, presenting to you, please do find supporting materials on your own. Any information that you hear here, you should weigh by your gut. Because I am the guy that I never want to be known as a guru. I want to be known as one of you. I am not trusting blindly in any information I am finding in my research. I keep digging until something makes sense to me and resonates with me. Then I take that as sure thing. Otherwise, I don't. And I urge you to do the same thing. Having this podcast and channel, it is not about being right or wrong or criticizing others. I Some of my segments might appear that way, but it is simply constructive criticism on my part. At least I try. If it comes other way, I am apologizing for that. There is not intended to do that because, as I said, we are part of the fabric. We are part of the so-called Garden of Eden. As if you understand the Garden of Eden, there are billions of different species in there: flowers, trees, grasses, clouds, every life form possible that we know and we don't know. So we are the same way. We are so different, and what's correct for you listening to this is not necessarily correct for me, and the same thing what is correct for me is not necessarily correct for you. I'm only here to share my view, my experiences, my very bizarre and unusual out of body experiences, and these they call it ESP channels. I don't know how to call it. I just don't want to be attached to the labels, the terms that are being used, because some of them are worn, torn, and misused and abused. It is simply, many times I am in presence of someone that I don't understand, and I will simply tell you that that information was presented to me from an intelligent form that presented itself as Now that I do know, understand what those forms are, at some point I am going to make a presentation explaining that to all of you because it is time. We are running actually the gap between what is and the renewal is closing. We are already at 12 o'clock. The clock, the humanity clock already is beeping 12 o'clock. So the time up clock beeping means that there is a renewal, there is a start of something fresh and new. And guess why? Because the discord, the disharmony, the noise that we are making, who is right, who is wrong, reach a level that it cannot be reversed anymore. But this is done on purpose. We are contributors to that extreme noise. If you could see that from the outside, you can see that even when you look at the Schumann's resonance, what is happening, the Schumann resonance is going out of completely scale because that's what we do. The sun is blasting and blasting because this is what we do. This is our doing. It's not the sun on its own that decided to start flashing. It is our minds, our perception, our attitudes, which is causing that the sun is acting this way. Then we have all the events in the world, all these triggers, the Putin, the Trump, the Carney, the assassinations, the shootings, the earthquakes, the volcanoes, the weather, all those things and the misinformation about the CO2, about the climate, about politics, about money, about health, about whatever else. These are all leading to the end, to complete collapse, and you should be celebrating because when you destroy your kitchen, you do know that there is going to be renovation and brand new kitchen with new appliances, beautiful with all the fixings that you wanted always is going to be there. So why the long faces, why the upset, why those suicides, why all these other things going on around the world? Enjoy every minute, have a blast. Do not feel that you are some kind of third class citizen or fourth class citizen, that they are screwing you over, controlling you with everything. And you have those prophets all over the world that are promoting like you are being controlled by oligarchs, by corporate world, by the governments, by aliens. Now the aliens, did you know that there is a psyop going on to enforce and make official the landing of aliens? This is psyop. But unfortunately, when you say that, you are instant enemy to those who are religious about that. I'm going to finish this part with a quote. Remember that. As man thinketh in his heart, so is he. See you in another episode.